What was the process to get sort of, to Swan? What were the stages along the journey?
Yeah, sure. So,
And I guess maybe for those who don't know, I assume probably too much that everyone knows Swan, but maybe just give a little introduction as well.
sure. So, Swan Bitcoin, swan.com is a financial services firm centered around Bitcoin. So, we're a Bitcoin brokerage. We have a high net worth division that serves H&Ws and companies globally. We have retirement products. You can put Bitcoin in an IRA. We have a business focused division that helps with corporate treasuries, and we have the Bitcoin benefit plan. So you can give some Bitcoin to your employees every month, that kind of thing. We have a pretty big media operation. So the Swan YouTube channel gets more views than any other Bitcoin channel, sort of by a long shot, as far as Bitcoin only channels. What else? We run Cafe Bitcoin on social audio. So five mornings a week from 7 to 9 Pacific, 10 to noon Eastern. That's pretty big Twitter Spaces every day. We own the Pacific Bitcoin Conference, which is October 5th and 6th is the second one. Sorry, it's a festival this year, Pacific Bitcoin Festival, October 5th and 6th in Santa Monica, pacificbitcoin.com. And, we're partners in the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund. So we have some investments that we're making alongside that squad with Dave Foley, James Lavish, Larry Lepard, Greg Foss. And we're just getting into more and more interesting ways to help people on their Bitcoin journey. We bought Spectre last year, so we're launching Swan Custody this fall. Should be out before the conference, so that'll be kind of like a Casa-like experience. Really, really simple. We think it'll be by far the best user experience that anyone's ever seen for using multi-sig and setting up a multi-sig. So yeah, just kind of in there in the mix, doing things for Bitcoiners. And I think that's kind of the end state for any company that wants to do something around Bitcoin only, is going to have to check a number of boxes for people, because people don't want to have, 30 relationships with companies. They want to have a small number of relationships, and they want those companies to do a lot of things for them. So I just think it's basically impossible to just have a little Bitcoin app. You have to do more things for people than just one thing.
Yeah. So, okay, great. That's a super helpful intro. So, obviously it didn't start with all those things. It started at a specific part. Where did it start? A and B. I guess the original question is sort of what got you. What were the steps to kind of get you there? Because I do remember getting a telegram from you about Give Bitcoin, and I'm interested in where that fit along the journey.
Yeah. So I guess just by way of introduction for anyone that's never seen me before. Used to work for big companies, worked for Microsoft, Morgan Stanley, McKinsey, Google, started investing in startups in like 2012 when I was still at Google. Got married and moved out to LA, really to be closer to the Silicon Valley ecosystem and the burgeoning tech scene in LA, with the whole Silicon Beach thing kind of taking off down here. And it was great. I started flying up first on Surf Air, and then that got too expensive. So I started taking the Southwest bus. But I would come up for day trips, 2-3 times a week, literally just go up in the morning, come back at night. And I was advising startups and cutting angel checks and just kind of doing an apprenticeship in the startup VC world. And that was kind of my 2013 to 2018. And then the last bull run caught my attention. And so that was, probably April, May of 2017. And, crypto was going nuts. And what I considered signal in the startup world, like Andreessen Horowitz, Union Square Ventures, they were writing about all these tokens and how every marketplace would have its own money and all these different things. And I was totally bought in and super interested. And, I wrote this like 50-page Google Doc of my thesis on a, crypto token fund I was going to start and all this stuff. And, so it took me like 10 or 11 months. So like May till about March or April of 2018 to sort through all of that. And I, met basically, a wide swath of the people sort of at the top of the crypto industry, and was diving in with 2 feet. And along the way, I came to, I would say, understand the truth. You could say, anyone else could say, at least believe that Bitcoin was the only thing that actually mattered in the space, and that Bitcoin was dramatically different than all of the non-Bitcoin altcoin crypto space. And at a minimum, from a sort of rational economic calculation, uh, I believe and believed since early 2018 that the problem that Bitcoin solves is 2 to 3 orders of magnitude larger than the sum total of the problems that altcoins are attempting to solve. And so the opportunity to me of working on Bitcoin looked 100 to 1,000 times bigger than all of altcoins combined. And so that was my cold, hard, career choice rationale. But I also just couldn't imagine working on all of the crypto stuff once I understood how the sausage was made and I saw, what the process was for manufacturing an altcoin that would pump, and how having anything of value wasn't really part of the equation that would actually have product market fit and do something other than add another building block to the snake eating its own tail and the sort of self-referential sort of trading tools and leverage for trading and leveraging up to trade crypto. Like that's the only innovation that's existed so far in crypto is trading more crypto. So by mid 2018, I was trying to figure out how to do something like really of value in the Bitcoin space. I started a Telegram group, which was kind of forming a fund, and it was a Bitcoin ecosystem fund. And it was like me and Steve Lee and Dan Held and a few other people. And rolling into the fall, I was still consulting to normie startups. And I actually had one that I was working on myself that I had funding lined up for. And I was like sitting there on the fence. Do I go whole hog into Bitcoin, or do I just start a normal startup and do that? And I still love this idea, by the way, and I'm going to do it someday, but we'll do it someday after Swan. And then the bear market was just brutal. I think it fell off a cliff in November of 2018. And, that was when it finally broke through 6 down to, 35 and ended up bottoming out at like 31.50 in December. And I was still just like, wow, this thing is so far down and I still can't think about anything else. And I still can't read about anything else. So like clearly, as Rick Rubin would say, you need to follow the thing that you're interested in, and the opportunities will come from your pursuit of the thing that you're interested in. And so I kept on kind of noodling on what my problems were in Bitcoin. And I figured if I could just like pass through that aperture, like a lot would open up. And I realized the problem that I thought I could help solve was reducing the amount of time that it took for someone to get up to speed on Bitcoin. So it really was the education. And I thought through code and media, Naval style, that could be done a lot better and a lot faster than it had been historically. And so the idea was, let's start an education focused on ramp. Had the idea, I think, in March or April of 2019. And I didn't think that there was room in the market, and everybody kind of talked me out of there being room in the market for a direct on ramp the way that Swan is today and as we were at launch. And so I thought, well, let me sneak in with this gifting product and we'll see what happens. But I had very limited ambitions for that. I thought maybe we could drive it up into the tens of millions of valuation and flip it to somebody or something like that. And what happened after launching it in November, I think it was early November of 2019, we launched the gifting product, and it had so many hoops you had to jump through. You had to, so it was ACH funding, but your balance didn't hit, right away. We didn't have a float. And so you basically couldn't even give the gift. You had to schedule the gift at least 10 days out. Right? You couldn't give somebody Bitcoin like right now, or you could, and they could get the message, but you wouldn't actually pull your funds wouldn't arrive, and we couldn't purchase the Bitcoin until 10 days later. Right? So there were all these hoops. I think that it was 2%, and you could give a recurring gift as well. So you could set it up so you could give somebody a gift, every week or every month as well. And it was nuts because in the first 3-4 weeks, right away, 90% of the volume was people buying gifts for themselves and buying recurring gifts for themselves. And so all summer long, interestingly, in summer of 2019, Pierre Rochard, Friar Haas, and Gigi had been tweeting about like the best way to buy Bitcoin is just a dollar cost average. They use dollar cost average. It really not quite the exact right use of that term, but let's call it automatic recurring purchases or auto DCA. And that over the long haul, not necessarily as a trading strategy, because if you can time bottoms, like obviously you can crush it by putting in giant sums of money at the bottom if you're good at that. But really removing human psychology from it is actually more important for 99+% of people. And because we chase shiny objects and we get scared when things fall. And so that's what people were doing. And the fees were lower than the Coinbase app and the Gemini app or whatever. And it was Bitcoin only. So the whole Bitcoin community was kind of like lifting this thing up. And people were talking about this tiny, it was me in a dev shop at first. And then I was like, oh shit, we need customer support. And so I called, I think, Brady and Brandon, so Brady Swenson and Brandon Quittem, who were just kind of well-known content guys that had marketing skills. And so they joined up, Brecky, and then Jan obviously was crucial because he's, so Jan Pritzker, the author of Inventing Bitcoin, my still favorite introductory book to Bitcoin, came on as co-founder and CTO, I think around December of 2018 or 2019. And yeah, it was basically over the holidays that we were like, okay, we've got something here. People are actually using us as an on-ramp for themselves. We've got the back end built. Can't be called Give Bitcoin. We were calling it internally Save Bitcoin, which is a horrible brand, for about a month before we came up with the name Swan at the beginning of January. And that's the reason we announced Swan in January, because we already had the back end built. We knew all we had to do basically was skin it and market it, and we could launch. And we got Swan out as planned before the end of March. I think it was March 30th of 2020 that we launched Swan.